welcome to the show. I'm your host, Corey McMahon, and you are listening to Rolling with Corey. And on this show, I do random truck driver interviews, asking each one of you drivers the questions we all want to know. What is the company you're driving for, and what company could you give feedback on so us drivers, myself included, can make better employment choices? We will talk about pay, miles, equipment, and how you are currently being treated or were being treated at a previous company. We'll learn a little bit about you drivers also, because we all have a story. We all want to be heard. By hearing your story, we'll get a better perspective of maybe why you chose this company, or any other previous companies. One thing that I can guarantee you while you drivers are listening to each episode is that they are unscripted, and I only do editing for better listening qualities, to edit things out like long pauses and my heavy ass dumb breathing. No two episodes will be alike. I'm pretty much aiming just to get as much information out there to all the drivers or people looking to become drivers, commercial Class A drivers, and to have it integrate a little bit of entertainment and hopefully some good product recommendations, because I don't see enough of that being out there. However, before we get into our very first interview, let me just say thank you for listening and giving this podcast a chance. I am a full-time driver like the majority of you all listening. I have been behind the wheel for 25 years, and I know, I'm not boasting saying that, because I know there's a lot more that's been out there, but 25 years, let me tell you, I'm really trying to wind down. But this is not about me. This podcast and the other podcasts that I'm currently creating, they've been a work in progress for quite some time. So, trying to get equipment, good quality equipment, to work the bugs out for, better quality, better sound, and the learning curve, because I don't know what I'm doing, at all. Something I noticed about radio show hosts and other podcasters, they love to talk about themselves and typically use the interviewee as a gateway to do just that. And that really kind of annoys me. So to avoid this issue, so I can prevent a lot of repetition things, I made an introductory episode where, I talk about me and my background. So I don't gotta go make it sound like I'm boasting or anything. I'm just trying to be relatable and get to the point of each story. If you have any questions or would like to be on the show, or if somebody like a company rep is out there about one of the carriers that we talk about, feel free to reach out to me. I'm not trying to make any company sound bad. I'm trying to be somewhat, quote unquote fair. I'm trying to be fair. If there's any company reps that want to do a rebuttal, that's fine with me. We'll get them on the air, we'll talk. Reach out to me at Corey@mindhavenmedia.com. That's the name of my company, Mindhaven Media. So that's Corey@mindhavenmedia.com. Also note, this is a self-produced show. Being that I work full-time, I cover all my expenses with my full-time job. So I'm donating 90% of all donations to local charities and churches to help children in need. Those children that are overlooked by bad parenting, loss of parents, they're stuck in the system, they don't have a voice, just being left out. It's something I'm kind of involved in when you hear the introductory episode, so you'll learn more about that. Trying to raise money. This is the best way I know I can do that. So anything will help in that manner. So I set up a Cash App that is $Mind Haven Media. So it's $Mind Haven Media. Let's get to the nitty gritty about this. My first interview is my buddy Ken. He is a former 3-year lease operator He leased his truck through SFI and hooked on to Landstar. Very popular. I'm sure I'm going to do a follow-up episode with him because it was almost impossible to cover everything. So here we go. I hope you really enjoy it. All right, so we're on with Ken today, and you and I worked at Landstar and SFI. We're going to talk about our experiences there. So what did you like best about SFI? Like, why did you, or not SFI, but Landstar? Why did you decide to go there? And then why did you decide SFI?
I went to Landstar mainly because of the load board, the ability to choose where I want to go, when I want to work. There's so many different options at Landstar that it opened me to other avenues. Their business model also, it's so many direct customers that it made it easy to stay loaded along with getting brokered freight. So that was my main decision on going there.
Did you stay regional? Were you over the road? Like, how did you run your business model?
I was regional. I tried to run mainly between Pennsylvania and Florida, or Pennsylvania and the Midwest. It was hard to run local. There wasn't, the way things didn't line up. So it was hard to run local, but it was very easy to get into Florida with Landstar. Like, if you want to run Florida, Landstar's the place to go. The freight's there. It's hard to get out of, but anybody that runs Florida knows where you got to go to leave. So, but I mean, that was my business model, was made after that. And it worked for me for years. Prior to going to SFI, I had done Landstar, and then with SFI, I had done Landstar, and SFI just made it so much easier to deal with through Landstar.
Well, that is true. And like I said, you and I were both there. I didn't have anything bad to say about SFI. They did make it easy to get on board with them.
Yeah, I don't have anything bad with SFI. They were great from the word get-go. I had Ben in the beginning, and he worked with me. I was going to a smaller company up here in Pennsylvania to do a Dollar General dedicated account. And a week before I was to take delivery of my truck, he lost the account, and I ended up having to scramble at the last minute to find some place to go. And originally, I was going to go to Landstar, and I had actually took my SFI truck to F2F first, and then went to Landstar, which is going to lead me into with some of the stuff and the differences between what a lot of people have with Landstar is their percentage. They don't like how low the percentage is. And I can tell you firsthand, I did an 80-20 split at SFI and made way more money at Landstar on a 65% just because of the fees, the insurance, the maintenance on the trailers, everything you got to pay for, all the back office stuff that they make that you pay for in an 80-20 company that you don't pay for at Landstar.
Yeah, well, exactly. That was my experience. That that percentage, it seems like a big chunk, but you do get a lot with it. They do all that back office work, and if you have, like, especially if you're going to do hazmat, like I did a lot of hazmat. They handle all the particulars if something doesn't look right on the bill of lading.
Yeah, that was the other thing too. They had that, the back office, the support, just everything. I mean, when you're paying for a trailer at another company at $225 a week, and you curb a tire, and now you're out $400 or $500 on a tire, where Landstar's not charging you for a trailer, and if you curb a tire, I mean, they just send somebody out to change it. They don't even question you. Okay, yep, we're sending Goodyear out.
Yeah, that was my experience. To touch base on that a little bit more is waiting to get through to road service and breakdown can sometimes be a pain in the butt. But
that's any company. I mean,
you're going to be like, I remember being on hold for an hour, hour and a half sometimes, especially after hours.
Yeah, if it was after hours, I just parked it for the night and waited till the morning. That was basically what I would do.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing with Landstars. You got like so much freedom, but you got to learn how to be efficient with them. They're not going to hold your hand. So if you understand how their operation works, like if you have a breakdown or something, it can wait till morning to regular, business hours to get answered and dealt with, and that would probably be optimal, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that was how I ran. I'm a solar power driver. Okay. I like to start my mornings 5, 6 in the morning, and I like to be done 5, 6 o'clock at night. And that's mainly because I prefer to drive during the day now. I never really liked driving at nighttime. Too many crazy people at nighttime. Too much stuff to worry about. I can't see as good at night. I mean, I'd just rather be able to focus on what I'm doing. And plus your customers. Most of your customers are open during the day, and you can get more done, in my opinion. Yeah, if you're running long haul, it may be easier to do at night on the East Coast, but the customers are open during the day, so you can get empty and you can get loaded right away instead of having to wait.
Yeah. Now, you started out doing dry van, and then you switched to flatbed, right? Now, was that because of the freight, or you just prefer flatbed? Like, what made that decision?
Yes. No, I prefer flatbed. And I did it just because I like to get out, get a little exercise, and I enjoy flatbed. It was a challenge. I had done so many years of dry van that I was like, all right, I'm ready for a new challenge. And flatbed on Landstar side, it's a real challenge. Now, you go from deadheading 25 miles for a load to, there was times I was deadheading 250 miles to get a load just because of where you were and where you needed to get to. And when you're in flatbed, I need to be in this city to get reloaded, or that city. So if I go here, how far am I going to have to go to get reloaded? And a lot of times the agents who work with me would be like, hey, can you throw a little bit in for deadhead on both ends, and they would help you out. I mean, the agents aren't there. Not all the agents at Landstar are there to hate you. There's a lot of really, really good agents at Landstar, and I worked for a lot of really, really good agents over and over and over again, and they always helped me out when they could.
Exactly. I don't think they get enough credit, the good ones. I think like the ones that do drive you crazy, the here and there, the ones you kind of use as fillers.
Yeah, the broker agents.
Yeah,
that's what I like to refer them to, the broker agents.
Yeah, and you try not to use them very much, but I think they, misery loves company, so all your attention's going to go to the bad ones. It's like, oh man, I have to deal with these ones. And
I mean, everybody at Landstar knows you stay away from the AU agents, but if you find a good AU agent, you keep them in your phone, because then when you're in an area, you just text them, hey, so-and-so, I'm here. Can you get me something from here? And he'll text, yeah, absolutely. For what they work for, they'll absolutely try to find you something.
Well, now here's the other thing. So what people that haven't been to Landstar should understand is, like, Landstar has like their own freight, but the agents, if they don't have something, they can sometimes, depending which one you're working with, can go onto like C.H. Robinson board or a third-party board and find something, right?
Yeah, they can. And your agent has to really like you. Sometimes the big agents are a little too busy for it. So you always got to have a smaller agent that's willing to go on a load board somewhere and find you a load. Because they want to make money too. They only get 30% of the load. They're not making. The biggest misconception at Landstar is that they're robbing us, right? Whereas the agents have no way to rob us, because they get the same as the owner operator at Landstar. They get a percentage of what the load pays. So they're not going to take money off the top, because first of all, as a BCO at Landstar, you can see what's billed. So there's no way for them to take that money off the top unless they're doing it on the side. And then there's nothing you could do about that,
Yeah. And that's what I liked was, the transparency of everything. And the agents really want to get the best price because they're getting percentage. They're not getting like a straight fee. So it's incentivizing them to, the more revenue, and spread it around, which, that's great.
Absolutely.
You don't see that on like the third party boards very much.
No, you don't. And and freight got a little bit slow, and I noticed that we started to lose some of the direct customer freight that we had to some of the other larger companies who were coming in and underbidding. And the agent said that they tell you straight out, we're not going to bid any lower than what we're getting, because we don't want to put you guys out of business, but we don't want to give in to the big company. And they would always come back around. When the big company didn't show up for a load, the rate would always rise, because it was the last minute and they needed you.
Yeah. I noticed the research I've done on an agent had a C.H. Robinson load posted that on the Landstar board, that their rate, the Landstar rate was slightly higher than what it would be on the Robinson board.
Yes, it was.
There's certain reasons for that, but that's not saying that agent, C.H. Robinson, would typically pay that much, for that particular load.
Right. And I think it was from my experience that I learned at Landstar was, I think that you had agents that worked directly for some of these bigger agencies, okay, like a C.H. Robinson, a TQL. All right. And especially TQL. I definitely know there was TQL agents that worked for Landstar because the rate was always higher than what was on the outside board. And they were able to do more than you were on any of the outside boards. And it was always the same phone number. I noticed that when I had come back to Landstar after being F2F, I was getting the same call from the same agents that I worked with outside of Landstar.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, but everybody wants a piece of the pie. In Landstar, I get it. Everybody says the same thing. They're just caring about making money. They just want to make money. I mean, obviously, they've been in business and they've grown to be as big as they are now for one reason.
They always stayed on the positive side of things.
So you don't, right. And that's their business. They have to make money in order to keep it going, in order to keep things like the trailers coming in, the maintenance, and just the ability to keep people hired to do all the back office work for the BCOs.
Yeah, they have a big overhead. Once, you get in there to know the company, which you got to take time to do. You can't be always focused on your own operation, to be efficient, you got to understand how they operate too. And, their overhead is pretty tremendous. They got a lot of employees working for them.
A lot.
And, all these third party, repair facilities, they try to get the cheaper deals for everybody.
Yeah. And that's what a corporation does. And I mean, they do their own shipping. They do their trailers. They do so much with that overhead. Yeah. I understand why they're as big as they are, because they don't give up.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though. One of my issues with them, the only issue I had is I wish they had yards that were bigger, that would, were more, friendly to trucks. Because obviously, they don't have quote unquote terminals.
Right,
so to speak. And
I feel the same way.
For the over the road drivers anyway. You were regional, you got home a lot, so. But I mean, when I was over the road, I know they have one down in Laredo, but they started putting rules on that. It has truck parking, but it was limited, and you had to be under a load. When I left, they changed the rules. You got to be under a load if you're going to park here overnight or attending a class.
Yeah, there was too many guys leaving their trucks there and going home for months at a time. And
yeah, there was people, ruining it.
That's the problem with them having the terminals, right? I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to the one in Carnesville, Georgia. Beautiful facility, but there was just a lot of trucks that were left there and guys would go home for months. Same thing in St. Augustine, Florida. Beautiful place, just nowhere to park.
Yeah, I don't think I've been to the St. Augustine one. Jacksonville. I think that was the one down from the TA, if I remember correctly. Yeah, even that yard's not very big.
Yes, correct.
So
no, that one's not very big. But I agree with you. They needed, and though they are there, I mean, you could swing through. Indianapolis had one. You could swing in and get a shower. I've stayed at the one in Indianapolis a few times when the truck stop was full. It was just hit or miss if you were going to get a spot in there. But they opened the doors up.
Just like truck parking anywhere else, it's you get the prime time when you're going to get a spot and when you're not. More likely during the day.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the guys Right. And a lot of guys do come from larger companies like a Schneider or JB Hunt, where they do have these huge terminals because they have company drivers. And then they come over to Landstar and they're like, well, we don't have this. And we didn't. And it really was needed. I know the biggest problem is their trailer, right? And you know this, when you lose a trailer.
Right. Yeah, I was going to touch on that, but yeah.
When you lose a trailer and you call Trailer U, they're searching for a trailer. Whereas if they had a yard you could drop the trailer at, when guys, are done with it, it would be so much easier on them. But again, it's all in the overhead.
Right. Yeah. And, and drivers do drop these trailers just about anywhere, because you don't know where they're dropping them for home time or whatever. Then, then they get sick or they quit or whatever for a reason. They abandon the trailer, and never report it. Then it goes back in the trailer pool and, people got to go and get them.
Yeah.
They've paid. Utilization called me a couple of times to say, hey, we see that you're home or you're just coming off of home time. We got trailers near you that need moved, and you take them to a shipper or something like that, which was,
Yeah, I've done that a few times for them.
Right. Yeah. And
saved them when they were about to get towed.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, that is something they need to work on. I mean, honestly, their trailer utilization and everything. I think they have so many that, I mean, they do get lost in the crowd.
They just don't know where they go. Yeah. Well, I know when, this just recent time when I had decided to call it quits from being an owner, going back to this company side, I had called trailer utilization to come pick up my flatbed. It was last week, which was going on 6 months till they came and got it. So, I was emailing the guy in charge constantly to come get it and everything. Just let him know, hey, it's still at my house. I'm still, it's still safe, but I'd like it if you would move it. And it took them 6 months.
No kidding. I called them this, the day I left, I called them, let them know where it was. I don't know, how long did it take for them to come get mine, or is it still there?
It was a week before they came to get mine.
No kidding. Oh my gosh, are you serious? Oh wow. That's a long time to have a trailer sit.
Yeah, so that, you're right, and that's one thing. Like, their trailer utilization department is terrible.
And they never called me about it. I left them a message. I didn't leave them. I told the person directly. I said, this is a trailer number, this is where it is. I'm surprised they let it sit that long, but I mean, you and I parked in a, very, not a very demanding area, not near an interstate.
That's kind of what it was. Yeah. I mean, that was kind of like, that was one of my biggest pet peeves with Landstar, and I'll say it for anybody that's going on Landstar. If you're waiting on a trailer, just give them a little bit of time. But if it's more than, I used to say 48 hours, I would kind of get on them a little bit about, hey, do you have a trailer? And don't be afraid to call and say, do you have one in another region? They may not pay you to go get it in another region, but it pays more than just sitting and waiting.
Oh, absolutely, because nobody's getting paid sitting and waiting. So, and what I learned is, because there's a couple times I did some power only stuff, right? And I would call utilization, and they have like a list, I guess, of people they got to go through or trailers they got to go through, however they operate. I got on the Facebook Landstar site. There's a couple different, groups on there. And I said, hey, I'm in this area, and I got told by 3 or 4 people where to go get a trailer. They gave me the trailer number. And I called utilization back and I said, hey, this trailer is not far from me. Can I go get it? And, they let me go. They let me go do it. So, but you're taking a risk because you don't know what that trailer looks like. You don't know how many flat tires it got or anything like that. How long it's been sitting.
Yeah, that's kind of that. I mean, and when that's kind of any trailer that you do with a drop and hook at Landstar. It just depends on your fellow BCO and how they operate. And that's the downfall right now with Landstar. The biggest downfall with Landstar was they hired too many BCOs. When I first started, there was 8,000 BCOs. When I had just re-signed on back a couple years ago, I think we were at 12,000 BCOs.
Yeah,
which
right.
that is a
Yep.
huge number of BCOs, and then slowly you could watch the numbers dwindle. Anytime I was taking a load to an area, there's a section on the port where you can see how many trucks were headed.
Didn't we once, because this was like during COVID, right? And didn't we once get up to close to 15,000?
Yes. Yep. They were close to 15,000.
That's a lot of people trying to move a lot of freight.
It is. And then when the freight fell off, a lot of people started giving up or moving on to other carriers. And I know the number was down to like 9,300 the last time I checked an area to see how many trucks there were still in the Landstar system, that's a crazy amount to lose in a short amount of time.
Yeah, it's dropping like flies.
Yeah, and a lot of that wasn't Landstar's fault. That was just the way the freight fell off.
No, that's the economy, 100% economy.
Guys were in over their head, right? The economy, and you're in over your head. I know when I had turned my SFI truck in, it mainly was because I was done with the road. All right, 22 years of being on the road. I was just finally done with it. I still had years to go on the truck. I could have made it, but I just was done with the road itself.
The sacrifice wasn't worth the reward.
It wasn't.
Exactly.
And I needed to take a different opportunity because I eventually want to go another route other than trucking in life. So, but this has been my whole life has been trucking. I mean, I know way too much about this. So it's like, it's so hard to get out of. But I mean, and it was so hard to leave Landstar.
Oh my gosh. You and I, you're reading my mind.
Yeah, it's.
And it is difficult because like if you put truck driver on a resume, like they don't understand like what we go through. If you're trying to get a non-trucking job or something like that, it is difficult. They see, oh, you're just, you're not, you don't got the college education or the skill set we're looking for.
Right. And of course we've been in it for so long now. You're in your late 40s or whatever, and they're looking at you like, we're not hiring you now. So your only choice is to stay in. It's to keep going with it. But
yeah. And even to get into like the corporate side of transportation, it's unreal how difficult that is because you're still, even though you got the background of it in so many different, various settings, flatbed and tanker and all this other stuff, it's, you got all this knowledge, but like you don't fit in with the office staff sometimes.
Yeah, and we don't have the college education. That's the biggest thing I was told when trying to move out of the driving side and into a corporate side of some of these companies. I tried to move into dispatch at a few of the large companies in the area here, and was told I didn't have a college education. Didn't matter. I had 22 years of experience. I didn't have college education.
And even that is a huge pay cut.
It is.
I mean, because dispatchers don't make nothing.
No, they don't. They make a little more than I thought they made, but I kind of understand why.
Well, I mean, when you can get a company job at 80,000, 75, 80,000 a year with that much experience, minimum to start. But dispatchers, what are they, like 60, 65 sometimes?
Somewhere between 65 and 80,000. Yeah.
Depending how good they are. Yeah.
Depending on how good they are and how many drivers they can handle. Yep.
Right. But, dispatchers are different than load planners, so I'm wondering if that's like a career ladder. Would you move into load planning, which I think would be great. Like I have fun with the load boards, and
Oh, I do too. I actually was going to move into I was going to try to start a business of dispatching for Landstar guys only. There are dispatchers at Landstar,
yes,
that will assist you, but some of them are charging a huge percentage. I didn't really want to make a lot off of the guys. I just wanted to see guys succeed, and the knowledge that I learned at Landstar. There's so much inside of Landstar to learn that once you learn it all and you take the time to learn it all, and you're not just running a load and saying, who cares about this? Or, the monthly newsletters would come out. I felt like I was the only one that would ever read the monthly newsletter.
Right.
Right. So, and that was only because I wanted to have the knowledge of where are we going, in what direction is everything going, which ultimately did lead to some of my decisions to end my contract with Landstar. And if I needed to again tomorrow or wanted to go back onto the side of owning a truck, I would call Landstar right up and say, hey, I'm ready to come back again. Because I like it that much.
Yeah. Yeah. I enjoyed it. The freedom of just being able to have that own schedule, predict your own schedule and choose, where you want to go. Especially like me, my thing was I like being over the road. I didn't have any demands of being home. So being out for 3 weeks at a time is like optimal.
Right. And you could definitely, that seemed to be the easiest thing to do at Landstar, was just you could keep yourself running.
Yes.
For months on end.
Right.
And never have any problems. Because the East Coast freight, like if you go East Coast, West Coast at Landstar, or go East Coast, Midwest, West Coast, Midwest, East Coast.
Yeah.
The options are
you can't be one of those guys that say, well, I'm not going to go here or wherever. If the money pays, then you go.
You could say you don't want to go anywhere you want to, but right, if that money looks like it's good enough, you're going to go.
Yeah. So like the loads going to Florida, if you're not willing to haul produce out of Florida or something, or the load's not paying enough, to go to Florida, but typically it does. Typically it'll pay enough to get down there and get you back to Georgia.
They typically do. And when you find yourself a good agent that does, if you want to run Florida freight, you just search the load board and there's ways to see the lanes and who does them. And you talk to the agents, which is what I did. I worked for 3 different agents out of Northeast PA with the flatbed going to Florida. And I was getting enough on each flatbed load that I could deadhead all the way home and still do $2 a mile. So anything I got coming back was just bonus money to me, because I have had to deadhead home already. So, I mean, it does happen, it happens. But that was why I like to be regionalized, because I had those 3 agents that they were my Monday load agents. And they knew on a Monday, they were pretty much evidently, we'll say, fighting for me, because whoever had the first Florida load was getting me for Monday. So there was times I was getting Florida loads for Monday calls on Wednesday, right? They're just like, I got...
Right. And was that with the dry van or was that with the flatbed?
That was with the flatbed. Okay. When I was on the dry van side, I worked for the Deca battery agent. I can't remember her name. It was OLL, I think it was. Ohana Logistics, yes. They were excellent. And then they ended up selling their agency to one of the AU agencies, and it just kind of went downhill.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that was so sad.
Yeah, it was. I had done good work with OLL.
Because I knew, like, coming out of the house, same as you, like, coming out of the house, I could get a battery load, and it would pay pretty decent, but I would take a longer one, like going to Montana or something.
Yeah, for the longest time with OLL, I had done nothing but Albertus to Olean, Iowa, and then down to Osceola, which is another Deca plant. I would pick up there and come right back to Albertus every week, same turn. It was decent money.
And what was good with them? The unloading was like lickety split.
Lickety split, right.
Yeah, I never had an issue. Like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, like they were done. It was great.
And then I know you wanted to, your main thought is to educate people who maybe want to come over to Landstar or even if you're in Landstar trying to learn more about Landstar, even if you're working like what had happened to us with OLL when they had sold the agency. It wasn't very hard to find another agent to work with, but I always suggest to people that when you find that agent by your house that has that freight, try to stick with them and work with them. And they're always going to help you out. Even if you get to a place they don't have freight, they may know somebody who does have freight.
You're right. And I'll tell you, they have their own connections too that you don't know about.
Yeah.
So you don't want to get on the bad side of any of these agents, actually. You want to have a good rapport with all of them, even the ones that do, they might not have the best business practice. You're relying on them a lot of times.
Yeah, and they're relying on you to make their paycheck. And I tell everybody the same thing. If you're going to be late for a delivery, don't be afraid to call the agent and tell them, hey, listen, I'm going to be late. Okay? They may...
Right,
They may hee-haw a little bit,
you get those messages, those text messages, updating. Hey, where are you at? We just need an update. Some people get annoyed about that, but you know what? They got their reputation on this line, and they don't know us
Correct.
that well.
Correct.
So there's that learning curve that you got to get used to, and you can't have a big ego going into it. Like, oh, okay, I'm an owner operator, and I don't operate this way, blah blah blah. And you can't think like that.
That's the biggest complication most guys that just get into the business of being an owner operator have, is they get that mentality of, I'm an owner, it's my truck, and this is the way it's going to work, and I'm not going to answer your text message. You have me on tracking, check your tracking. I can tell you multiple times where I've been on loads that have required tracking.
Oh yeah.
Because they were military loads and the trackers weren't updating, and then they start to panic, call you, and then you kind of get to understand, okay, some of this stuff doesn't always work, so there's no reason to treat the agent bad. They're not here to treat you bad. They're trying to do the same thing you're trying to do, trying to move freight. And if I hired you to move a load for me and I don't know who you are, I'd be like, okay, where are you? You know what I mean? The same thing. I get it. So I would try to treat them with the same respect that they treated me with. If there was an agent I worked with, his name was Al. He was a brokerage agent, and they were the big ones to always text you.
Right. Yeah.
And I would just, every time I woke up in the morning, I would text Al and say, hey, Al, looking to deliver 9:30. And then I wouldn't hear a thing from Al until like 10 o'clock. Hey, did you get the delivery? Yeah, I'm here, just waiting for paperwork. And then I would send them my paperwork when I was done, and that would be it. And then sometimes they would say, hey, I got another load for you right there. Do you want to take it? Or most of the time I would have to say, nah, man, I'll pass, because I'm back in my area. I have my regular agents that I work for, but this is where I'm headed to next. If you want to start looking, and a lot of times you'd be pre-booked. You didn't have that stress. You just knew that.
Right.
Okay.
At least back in the COVID days for sure, and even like the trailing end. When I know when I retired, gave my truck back and ended a contract. It was still not that difficult to find freight, but your business model has to match those rates.
Yes.
And
it
those
does.
same agents, like you do a good job with an agent, right? And then they'll start texting you when they get something, and maybe that rate isn't, all that great, but and people will get so annoyed. You see it all, like you see it on the Facebook posts all the time. What is this agent thinking offering me this rate? Who can operate like this? But I'll tell you what, some people, they have their trucks paid off, and they can do that. Well, they have a low truck payment.
That is the biggest right there, right? Some guys' overhead was way less. And like, even with myself, there's times I've taken lower rates to help an agent out, but they've always come back and helped me out after that.
Yes.
It's got to go both ways. And the Facebook groups, some of them are good and some of them are just drama.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
It's just, you can learn a lot off of some of them Facebook groups, but there's some of them that you definitely, I read a lot of stuff really just to eat popcorn at the end of the day when I was kicking my feet up. Just to see the drama that goes on, because there is people. I still follow what Landstar does.
Right.
I know there's another popular podcast out there that a lot of people love to trash on.
Okay.
Blue Ribbon Logistics, which is part of Landstar.
I've never heard of them.
They do one. Yeah, they're on TikTok and YouTube,
Okay.
but they do more of what their business model is. But I interact with them a lot on there, and just the amount of hate that goes on is just, you just want to sit down with everybody and say, hey, listen, you've heard a lot about Landstar. I get it. There's a lot of negative, because the only people that talk bad about Landstar are the people who didn't make it at Landstar.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Then they're like, they're all grumpy, and they want to, project all that to other people. So I don't know. So that people have empathy or feel bad for them or whatever. It's not going to solve their bills. If you got energy to put into drama, then you got the wrong mindset. Mm-hmm.
Mindset for Landstar because they had a load posted for 1,000 miles paying $650. Well, you're right. It don't matter what company you are. Every company that brokers loads or hands loads out, they have to take the garbage loads to hand out too. Now they may not get covered, but they have to try to cover them load. It's just part of the business. You have to know all three sides of the business, right? If you're going to own a truck, you got to know the ownership part. You got to know the trucking part. You got to know the brokerage part. There's so much more to know, but you got to know how that operates to be able to understand, okay, well, I get you got a garbage load here, and there's no way I'm doing it. But if just because I don't want to do it, $1,000 from, let's say, Allentown to Pittsburgh may not be enough for me to do it, but you might have an older truck, no trailer payment, no truck payment. And if you get $1,000 for them couple of 100 miles, you're making good money.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. You know what? And to have revenue of $1,000 a day, $1,000 revenue in a single day, that's not too shabby.
No, you're doing really good, especially now.
Obviously you can do better than that.
Yeah. Right now it's hard to do anything. I got two buddies that still own a truck. One of them is with a flatbed carrier that he does well. And it has really, really teased me to want to get back into my own truck. I got another buddy they work load board freight, and it's a tough go right now. So you gotta have what you're looking for in order.
Yeah. Right. And I think this goes down to kind of like what you were touching on before is when you got out, you're like, you know what, I'm just going to get off the road. I'm going to be a company guy. You got to have your goals set, because that's the same reason I got off the road. Something inside me was like, you know what, other than the freight and everything, it was like, I'm just done being away from the house, because I'm doing 25 years now that I've been in the industry. And you just get something in your gut. It's like, I'm done, but my goal is set that I'm not going to go out, even though I get tempted so much. There's something about it that just draws you back into it, because that feeling of just being on the open road or whatever it is.
There's a lot about it that draws you back into it.
Yeah. But you gotta to me, at least I'm trying to stick to my goals.
Same here. I ultimately, in the end, I want to be out of the industry. I'm going to still be in transportation because I'm currently trying to obtain a commercial pilot's license. So that's what I want to move on to end my career. But then that was my whole reason for doing what I did. It wasn't because I couldn't make money. I was making money, was living a very good life.
Right.
And was happy. So it still can be done. And it still can be done with an SFI truck, right? Because I know that was part of this too. Like, yes, the payments they're high.
Right.
But you're not paying any more for that truck than what you'd pay if you went to a dealership. I went both routes. Dealerships are going to finance a truck for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. SFI, you're done in 3.
Right.
So, if you can stick out 3 years.
Right. Yeah. You're done with the lease with the option to buy. Yeah.
Yeah. With the option to buy. Right. And as long as you made all your payments, you were another year and a half away. So it was what? It was 4 years, I think, 4.5 years to own it free and clear.
Yeah, something like that. And I'll tell you what, it goes by quick.
It does.
It goes by so quick. And you just, when you're hyper focused on your business, and trying to be successful, you got to deal with all the stresses and stuff. But man, that time goes so quick. Before you know it, you're 40, 45.
Yep.
So I almost made it. I was 6 months, 5 months. I was 5 months shy of finishing that 3-year lease, right? And there was still equity in the truck because I think the truck market was still to the point where, okay, the lease is over, but what the asking price to buy it out, I could still sell it for $10 grand more, and that wasn't asking
Right.
too much, But the rates, my mind was if I can only break even for 6 weeks, and I can't break that curve, then I'm just gonna wash my hands of it. So because I mean that's a big, there's a steep payment every week
It was.
you got on that, and I didn't want to get behind on anything.
Now, once you got behind, it was way too hard to try to catch back up.
So, and turning the truck in now, and even then, like SFI would work with you, especially if the truck goes down.
Yeah, absolutely. They were always willing to work with you.
My truck was down for even though my truck was new, it was down for 6 weeks, and they either move those payments to the back end of the loan, or you had the option to make payments as you move along.
I know they did have a big problem with the Freightliners.
I think they want you to succeed. So
Oh, absolutely. They don't want that truck back.
they don't really want the truck back.
Right. They don't want the truck back. Right. They definitely don't want the truck back, even though they're going to make more money on getting the truck back. And that was the one thing, you had gotten a Freightliner. I had went with the International. And my biggest thing with the International was the new Freightliners had gotten a new DEF/engine combination. And that scared me away from the Freightliner. And I noticed that was a huge problem with a lot of the new ones. I think there were 22s, Yeah, mine was a 22. So the 22s, they had some issues with, but they stood behind their guys and, they held payments off and helped as much as they could as the warranty company. The warranty you get with SFI is you're not going to beat that warranty at a dealer. It was a 5-year warranty. You got a free DEF filter at the end.
Yeah, that was the other thing.
And I think it was $750 on the transmission.
I'll tell you what, that warranty saved me a lot of money.
Yeah, their warranty was top notch.
Right, which was great. And I'll tell you what, their prices, the SFI prices. So when you were Landstar, you get the option to get the LCAP pricing, right, for tires and whatnot. But you also get the benefits of SFI and their pricing. And a lot of times SFI pricing, like as far as tires go, would beat out the LCAP stuff, from Landstar.
Yes, they would. And I thought we were getting tires cheap through LCAP. But yeah, SFI definitely could beat the price.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and maybe not on the super, super higher end models, model of tires, but my operation, some people don't like Goodyear, but there was a Goodyear model that worked well with that truck. Because I tried Michelin's.
I'm the first to tell you I'm not a fan of Goodyear, but the Goodyear tires that I was using that came with my truck and I had put on after that,
right?
There was, you couldn't compare to. You said you used Michelin, I used Bridgestone. The Goodyears outlasted the Bridgestones that I would run.
Yeah, that's so weird. Especially on the steers. Right, on Freightliners go through a lot of steer tires. But I was like, through part of it, I was like, I want to get some high-end, steer tires, the Michelin's, and see how they go. The high shoulder, all that good stuff. Right, something beefy for the steers. And I'll tell you what, they ran out 85, 90,000 miles.
It wasn't the same.
And I wasn't happy with it. And even the ride wasn't the same. So I put the Goodyears on, the same model that came with the truck, and I was like, wow, okay, so this works. Some reason this tire works with this truck.
I change my steers every year or every 100,000 miles.
Right.
Obviously the price of tires has gone up. So I had stretched them out, and I got 170,000 out of a set of Goodyear steers and still had 632nd left on them. I just replaced them because I don't like leaving steer tires on that long. There's the Goodyear steer tires that I used. I got 165,000 miles out of them.
Yeah, right?
So, yeah, and I change my steers every year or every 100,000 miles, but obviously the price dictates it now. You got to kind of run them a little longer. They still had 632nds left on them. I didn't even need to change them. I probably could have got 200 out of a set of steers easy.
Now, did you have a problem with cupping or weird wear or anything with those steers?
Not on my steer tires. now, not on my steer tires. The drive tires I had a little bit of a cupping issue with, but still, them Goodyear drive tires, they outlasted any Bridgestone that I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why, I have the mentality of, like Goodyear is not a great brand. Somebody must have told me that and it just stuck with me. But, I mean, the actions speak for themselves. So
years and years and years ago, Goodyear were not so good on the semi-trucks, okay? But their program has definitely turned around.
Right, okay. Yeah, I never did a whole lot of tire research. I know there's like things you can do for like fuel economy or going resistance and things like that, but I never really got that much into it. I just wanted something to last.
Yeah, right, and that was where I was, but there's a whole rolling resistance. There's whole studies that I've done with people and have looked at and researched of a lot of like just running trailer tires for drive tires and never having an issue. So there's so much out there that you can do to run your business the way you need to make it work.
Did you ever get your truck aligned? Did you ever do an alignment?
I used MD Alignment, which they were the guy that runs MD Alignment's affiliated with Landstar. I stopped at his place in Michigan after the first year I had my truck, and he did an alignment. It was out a little bit, but it's insurance. It's saving you money. The little bit of cost he charges a BCO to do an alignment, in the end, if your tires last that much longer, you save that money.
I did mine in Jacksonville at that mobile MD alignment mechanic.
Okay.
At the Jacksonville yard, and I don't think it was like $350. And
yeah, it wasn't bad.
I'll tell you what, and it didn't take long. It only took like an hour or two.
It was like an hour and a half, and you were done.
Yeah, and he was taking his time. We were shooting the shit together the whole time, and he was actually explaining to me what he was doing, which was great. So I had an understanding of it. But once he was done, it was like a night and day difference.
Absolutely.
So I'm definitely a big believer as far as like MD alignment goes, because I've had them done with company trucks at like TAs and things like that, and they're just putting that machine on that or whatever, and it's there's two different methods of doing it. But I think MD alignment, they really care about what they're doing. The final result.
Yeah, there's a method of we're only here for money, as in the TA, and we're here to take care of you, as in most of your small guys, such as MD Alignment, which are great guys.
Right, and I think especially working with Landstar, because they want to keep a good reputation with the BCOs there, right? So they can just tell the other BCOs, and they can stay working every day.
Right, and I believe the guy that started MD Alignment was a BCO at Landstar for a long time.
No kidding.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, when I saw that guy pull up down Jacksonville yard, pull up with his, little trailer behind him in his pickup, and he's just working out of his trailer, I'm like, wow, that is like such a cool business model. I mean, yeah, he had to invest a little bit in the franchise name and the training, but he brings his tools with him, like everywhere he goes.
Yep. Yeah. Right. And he is always willing to work with a BCO. If you say, hey, I'm going to be stuck at, let's just say you're at the truck stop down in Titusville at the Loves, or even at the TA, he would come there and do it for you. Or hey, I'm at the Walmart in Jacksonville. Okay, man, where are you? I'll come do it for you at the Walmart in Jacksonville.
Right, the TA down there or something. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay, we got about 10 minutes left. What advice would you give to somebody looking to come on the Landstar? Like, if you could, like, the three most important things you could tell somebody.
The three most important things is don't give up. Right. First of all, don't give up. It's hard in the beginning. It's very hard for the first 6 months, but just keep on getting what you need to get done, and then research. Okay. Research the loads, research the load board. If you go in to eat dinner at nighttime, I have a bad habit I took my iPad in with me every night for dinner, and I looked at the load board in that area. I looked in the load board at home. I wrote agents down.
Right.
Okay. This agent has this load. All right. I would go the following week and look, that agent has that load again. Okay. So that agent's got it direct with this load.
Yeah, you're trying to make these connections in your mind
Yes.
because nobody's going to do it for you,
Yes.
and that's what makes a good operator.
Yes. Right. Even if I didn't want the load, that I would call and just ask them about, right? And make a connection. That's your biggest thing, networking. Even if you say, okay, that load goes where I like to go, but I can't fit that time schedule. You call the agent and say, hey, look, I can do it on this time schedule. Can your shipper move the load? If not, do you have any other loads that would match this schedule? This is a schedule I like to run on. Remember, that's how I got so many loads that way. Just by talking to them, that it's just, you have to be willing to put the effort into it.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing I would say would probably be the most important thing is respect yourself and respect your equipment. Okay. Take pride.
Yes.
Right. Don't drop a trailer with a flat tire, because karma will come around and get you, because the next 4 trailers you get are going to have a flat tire. You might be in a hurry to get somewhere, but it'll turn around and bite you then. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah. Right. True that. Oh, man. Yeah. So, yeah, the whole thing about drop trailers, there's a thing in Landstar there. Everyone's like, the load's probably going to be great. The rate will be great, but you got to watch because there might not be an empty available.
Right. That's happened to me multiple times.
And if there's not one available, you're back on with utilization and you're going through that whole fiasco. So a lot of the Home Depot loads,
yes.
A lot of Home Depot dropping hook, and you can call the broker, I call the broker a lot, the agent, right? I call the agent a lot and say, hey, we're going to have one. Yeah, we got a trailer pool there. It's not a problem. And typically, they have that revolving trailer pool. But if you get things out of sync, like you're going to deliver way, way early, then you might run the risk of having to wait or go look for another one.
Especially in the Home Depot loads. I don't like throwing agents under the bus, but stay away from JBX if you're doing a Home Depot load.
Right. And I'll tell you what, so for a while, they were my go-to thing because when the freight was really hot during COVID, I was going Virginia to Pittston. When they would have something in Pittston loaded or empty, I could get something going back to Virginia. But the freight was so abundant, they were turning trailers pretty quickly. But then as freight started dying down, they weren't turning trailers as much. And I would think, okay, freight's dying down, there's going to be more abundant trailers. But for some reason, those trailers started disappearing because I think all the local guys knew where to go to get those empty.
Correct. You could just pop in and get one.
And Home Depot is not going to be like, oh, you can't go take an empty.
Right.
You just go in a yard, say, hey, I'm going to grab an empty, and I'm like, okay, go. That's that.
Shout out to one of my favorite agents out of Pennsylvania, out of Parkersburg. She does Home Depot work. She never failed me on a Home Depot trailer.
Nice. Well, that's good.
And I cannot remember her agency. I was just trying to think of it, but I did a lot of work for her between Parkersburg, PA, and Winchester, Virginia. She never failed me on Home Depot, which one of Landstar's biggest customers, Home Depot. Oh, it's Pitt Agency.
Pitt. Oh, yeah. Pitt.
Yes. It was Pitt Agency.
Yeah, Home Depot. I did a lot of Dick's for them. Dick's Sporting Goods.
They are one agent that never failed. Their rates were never the highest rates out there, but they never failed you. And they would always, because I think the Dick's stuff, they would ask you about it, and then they had the bid on it.
I don't know. They call me and they say, hey, I got this load available. One of my typical routes I was starting to do. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I didn't even have to. There was a point I didn't have to ask the rate because I knew it was going to be good.
Yeah, they were one of my favorite agencies. Pitt, I loved them.
Yeah. And so I also did for them the kayaks out of Maine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that I can't remember a company up there up in Maine, but it was off the Maine Turnpike, and they would pay some pretty decent money, and they would go down to like Chicago or Oklahoma or something. Like they would go out, they had some distance to them, and you'd have it would be multi-stop typically, 2 or 3 stops, but even them they weren't too bad.
And that again goes back to knowing your agents and doing well for them, because they don't always just have freight in one area.
Yeah, and see, like we were just saying, like they will call or text with the load when something comes available, so it won't even go to the load board. So there's a lot of these operators, these BCOs, that rarely touch the load board. So getting started.
Yeah, they like to call that the ghost board.
Yeah, so getting started, right out of orientation and trying to get familiar with these people and the freight, it's going to be difficult, especially the economy now. But that 6-month learning curve, I would say that's probably what it would take is 6 months.
It's 6 months. That's about that's about the learning curve is 6 months.
Especially the time of year you're going into it. Because you might have to fill that, like if you're on the dry van side, you might have to fill that in with a produce load or, something where it requires a food grade trailer. I don't know if they're all food grade trailers anymore or not.
No, they're not all food grade trailers anymore.
And so you got to make sure what they have that vent on the
vents
on the nose and on the back.
The nose and the back doors. Yep.
Yeah, and they have to be super clean. And that's another.
Once I got my hands on them, I never let those trailers go.
Right.
I tried not to do dropping hooks, just so I didn't have to.
Exactly. Yeah.
With running a lot of Florida, I didn't want to let go of my vented trailer.
There would be these really good loads coming out of Buffalo, going down to Laredo, and they would pay insane amount of money. And you get to Laredo, you've got to drop your trailer. And everybody knows it's so hard getting a loaded trailer out of Laredo.
Oh, yeah.
If you're going to get a preloaded trailer, you have to drop an empty.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's the way it works down there.
Yes, it is.
So you can't, just go and find an empty anywhere. Like that's hard down in that area. But I liked actually going to Laredo once I had the agent and I that are on the right understanding. You know what it was? It was the Deca, those batteries, because they would go to Houston and San Antonio.
Yes.
Right, and then I would go to Laredo to get something coming back. Right, because Deca would empty me in San Antonio, so I'd have an empty, and I went to Laredo getting something pretty damn good going to the Northeast. I think it was like a $5,000 or $6,000 load going back to PA. That's
the one disappointment I have at Landstar is never getting to Laredo.
Well, I mean,
I never got to go down and see the whole operation or anything like that.
Oh, you're not missing nothing.
Every time GDT would call me with a tire load going down there, something would happen. Because she used to get loads down that would go to Mexico, and then she would have tires coming back, and it was basically a round trip that paid insane money. But something would always happen. Yeah,
I mean, there's at times when you just want to stretch your legs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And get down to Texas and see the open roads a little bit. So, I mean, that was my thing. I love that PA or Northeast to really South Texas, like Corpus Christi or Laredo. Then I'd run I-10 sometimes to like New Orleans, So that was my favorite route. I-10 is like my favorite route. Most people don't like it. I think it's the most scenic route in my terms.
Yes, beautiful route. And again, that was the beauty of Landstar. You got to choose to do that, right? There was always freight available for it, but there was nobody that said, if you wanted to wait 3 days for a load to come up somewhere to go the way you want it to go, you could sit there and wait 3 days. Nobody's going to tell you no.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I don't know how many times I did a reset. Not just a reset. I probably took 4 or 5 days off. I went to Oakland and I took a couple days off, like 5-6 days, and then I took some in New Orleans, and that was the freedom. And you don't get that with just any company, even if they hire you as a lease driver.
No.
Because you call around,
No.
I call like the Hirschbachs and this and that, and Prime. It's like, no, you got to be out 3 weeks, and you got to take the loads, or Now we'll offer you loads, but you can turn them down. But
And then we're going to make you sit.
yeah, you're gonna make you sit. So the freedom's not there, and the true sense of being an owner operator isn't there.
You're 100% correct.
But just quickly, because I know you got to go. Everyone's gonna want to know about money wise. Okay. Now I know after that learning curve, when you started getting into it as a dry van operator during, and again, this is during COVID, I was bringing home probably $5,000-$6,000 in my bank account.
At the end of the week? Yeah, that was easy.
And then you got to pay the, SFI had a debit off of the bank account. So you're still clearing anywhere from $3,500 to $4,000 on a full week being out.
Yes.
Running your full 70.
I was even still doing that at the end. I was doing $3,500 to $4,000 a week. Clear from Landstar. That's after fuel, after their percentage. I did pay a trailer rental because I was on the flatbed side. That is one thing on the flatbed side. You do pay a trailer rental, but you get a lot of bonus out of paying for that trailer rental. It's well worth it, especially with a spread axle, believe me.
You did have to wait. You told me you had to wait for your trailer rental, right?
I did.
There is a waiting list.
Yes, there is a waiting list. And I had gotten a step deck at first, and I will tell you this from firsthand experience. Unless you plan on hauling big, oversized machines, don't waste your time getting a step deck. Get a flatbed. You'll do way better with a regular flat than you will a step deck.
Right. That's what I heard.
I've been on both sides of it.
And
yes.
Are they all 48s or all 53s?
They're all 48s on the flatbed side.
Okay. And even that's investment, because just because you're getting a trailer doesn't mean you're going to get the equipment. You got to invest in binders and tarps.
You got to buy the equipment. Yeah, I have. The unfortunate thing about getting out of flatbed now is I probably have $10,000 worth of equipment sitting in my shed that I'm never going to, what I'm, so.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. It might come in handy one day.
You never know. Might have to dust it out again someday,
Yeah, that's investment. Those good tarps and that was the other thing, especially, as being an owner operator, and if you're going to be on that flatbed side, if you got to worry, like if you tear a tarp, you got to be able to fix that yourself.
Absolutely. I had a tarp tear on me on a important piece of machinery for the Navy, and I was in a Home Depot parking lot trying to put it back together. And you got to know how to do it, as it was about to start raining.
How big was the tear? Like, was it like a 90-degree tear?
Oh, it was a huge tear. I was hauling a big tripod machine for him, and it was a windy day coming out of South Carolina, and it had blown my moving blanket out from underneath, and it had caught the corner of this piece, and it ripped about a 6-foot section of tarp, straight line piece was sticking out. My method, thanks to my buddies, WD-40 to clean the tarp.
Okay.
And Gorilla Tape.
No kidding. Gorilla
Tape one side, flip it over, Gorilla Tape the other side. That tarp's still good to go right now.
Yeah, and I think Gorilla Tape, they make like the 4-inch wide tape, if you can, even I think you can get it on Amazon or something. But yeah, the wider the tape, the better.
The better. Yep. So a lot of people get the glue out and the vinyl patches and blah, 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 blah. Don't waste your time. That stuff don't last. I've tried it. Gorilla Tape is the savior for keeping your tears in your tarps. Or even though I had a problem with that load with my tarp, and this is where knowing your agents, I had mentioned it to my agent. My agent said, "How much is a new tarp?" I told her what I didn't buy expensive tarps. I bought my tarps from Mighty. They were $250. I got a new Raycon with $250 added on as an accessory to buy a new tarp.
Nice. See, that is the beauty. Like, you getting good with those agents. Wow. Like, they will take care of you because you're taking care of them.
Yes. That's absolutely the way it goes.
So, and part of the show was actually going to be like a product review. So we just got our product review in. So there you go. They're not sponsoring us.
Mighty tarps are awesome.
What are they?
Mighty. MYTE.
Right.
Mighty.
MYTE.
MYTE.
I think you're out of Ohio.
Yep. Out of Ohio. Yep.
Right. Yeah,
Those tarps are really good. Don't let the price scare you.
How many? Like, what type of tarps did you buy? Because there come different lengths and all this. So, what's a standard? Someone coming into the flatbed for Landstar, like, what should they get set up with?
A set of 4-foot tarps, set of 4-foot steel tarps, and a 6 set of 8-foot parachute lumber tarps.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You don't want to get a full set of vinyl 8-footers. The parachutes are just perfect for lumber, and a lot of other 8-foot stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you need your 8-foot tarps for at Landstar, and don't leave them at home like I did and then get a phone call for a $15,000 load from Michigan to Pennsylvania and say, I don't got my 8-foot tarps with me.
Right.
And they say, yeah, you need your 8-footers, believe me.
So what do? So do you scramble and try and go buy tarps right away, or?
I actually tried to go buy tarps right away, and I called the Detroit tarp manufacturer, which is in Chicago. I tried to get them there, and they didn't have any 8-footers that I wanted to pay what they wanted for them. They wanted $1,000 for a set of 8-footers.
Right.
When I know I paid $400 for the set of 8-footers I have. So I actually just told her I couldn't do them, but I really thought about going and buying tarps for that. Right. I know everybody's, you would have paid for itself. It would have paid for itself, but I had a brand new set of 8-footers that I had left at home because the load I had needed the whole deck, and it was just easier for me to leave them at home. And I never needed them up until that point. I had never used the 8-footers till that point when they called. So
isn't that the way karma goes?
That's the way it goes, right? It'll always bite you in this industry.
To always be prepared. Take everything you need on the road. Be prepared, and because those loads, like, they come around, they go quick. Right. So scrambling and trying to make something happen, that rarely works out.
Never. No, that doesn't ever work out.
Yeah, it never worked out for me either. So, yeah. But no, that's cool. So I think we got a lot of good information. Man, we could probably make a part 2 and 3 of this, easily, because there's just so much to talk about. But
we could go on and on forever.
Right. Yeah, I could see that you enjoyed talking about it, which was great. So I appreciate you doing this with me. Hopefully something comes of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. I mean, anytime you want to. Anytime you need anything or you want me on, or anytime you just need anything, just, give me a shout.
I appreciate it. So
if you get a listener that has a question that you can't answer, don't be afraid to ask me.
Yeah, there'll be a little post thing that I'm going to add to this little about how to contact, how to contact me and stuff like that about questions. And maybe one day we can get somebody that's interested about Landstar on here, and you and I can do a co-hosting thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because you got an abundance of information, and that's really what I want to do, is try and network with everybody, so, we had it hard getting into the industry, trying to do all this research, and you can't believe recruiters. You just can't. I have yet to meet one that had, they were not necessarily saying they're lying or being dishonest, but they only know the information they're given, and it's not necessarily relevant.
Right, and don't forget, when we first got started in this industry, all we had were magazine books at a truck stop.
True that.
With a big picture and a phone number.
Yeah, and then you call. Yeah, you call. They, then you get the recruiter, and they all act. To me, they all act like used car salesmen.
That's what they are.
Their job,
all used car salesmen.
They just want to get you in the company because their company's the best one out there.
Yep.
It's crazy. 25 years later, it's still the same.
Still the same.
And they wonder why
never changes.
Driver retention issues and stuff. Yep. So, all right, man. I don't want to tie up any more of your time. Right. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Not a problem. You too, buddy.
In touch. Make it easy.
Absolutely. You too.
All right. Okay. Later. Bye.
Thank you for listening to my buddy Ken and his tale from Landstar. Don't forget, you can email me for requests to be on the show or at Corey@mindhavenmedia.com. And please, Let's help those kids! Cash App $, Mindhaven Media. Thank you all again, and have a safe roll.